this is not a pleasant night. This isn't a pleasant conversation we're having. But we're talking about the future of the U.S. men's national team head coach and Greg Berhalter. And is this the right time? And Brian, do you see a reason why they should keep Greg? Or are you kind of in the same boat as us? If this is a buildup of, moments that you want more, and you fail in a massive competition when the expectations were always to get out of the group, given how kind this grouping was for the U.S. men's national team?
Yeah, Charlie, there's no doubt. I mean, you want more. I mean, that's neither here nor there, because the expectations coming into this tournament was to at least, I mean, the minimum was to get out of the group, and then it was who you wanted to talk to was, for me, it was the semifinals. And so, yeah, this is where there's going to be some serious conversations, and you could see every reason for U.S. soccer to go in a different direction. The thing is, we have no idea what the main directive is going to be. And I guarantee you, Greg knows that this is going to be a big question mark, and those conversations are going to be had.
I just want to put this in perspective. See, Greg Berhalter here, he has done well in CONCACAF, and I want to make sure you see his record, you see some of the big trophies. I look at the Mexico matches in Nations League, and that 0-0 draw at Azteca, although then we really take the microscope and look at this Mexican side and we say, damn, Mexico sucks. This isn't the Mexico team that we've all grew up playing against. This isn't the Mexico team loaded with stars. And you both know, when we played Mexico back in the day, you were running. You knew possession was all theirs, and we were chasing, and we were waiting for that moment. And if you lost the ball, I remember even from youth national team days, when you had the ball and you gave it away, you knew you were gonna have to run for 10 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes, whatever it is, long periods of time.
Tony wouldn't have to.
And not Tony. Tony was just barking at us to work harder. But this Mexican side is trash. They're trash. It's nowhere near the quality that they used to have. So you got to, I think, put that in perspective when you see the results against Mexico. But I want to throw this out there. U.S. were eliminated in the group stage for their first time in 20 tournaments hosted at home. They also become the first Copa America hosts in history to fail to advance out of their group.
That's a big stat.
That's some significant stuff right there. So, Brian, you were within U.S. soccer. You did have a glimpse at seeing how they pick a coach and what are the options of a coach who would be interested in the U.S. men's national team job. If you did make the move now, what type of coaches do you think they'd be looking at? And I know we're talking about salaries. We can't pay the craziest salaries in the world, but having a World Cup on home soil, what type of managers do you think they'd talk to, and which type of managers do you think they'd be interested in?
Yeah, it's a great question, Charlie, because there's a board that makes these decisions, and certainly they get great information from people that are in charge of the technical side. So eventually, it's going to come down to a couple different things. It's come down to finances, because right now with the quality side of things, which I think is great, in the sense that if they let Greg go and they're going to bring someone in, you would think they'd have to bring a big name in. And then that means a challenge to the budget. It means a challenge to the equality side. And, committing to something like that is fine and great, but you also have to look at the repercussions. That doesn't make anything like, I'm sure right now the comments are going crazy about people. How can this be? Let's fund, we'll send the fund. And U.S. Soccer will do that. But I think there's a structure on the board side of it that might limit where you can go with with a hire. I don't know that for sure because things can change, and with the World Cup coming up, they could open up the budget. But there's many more questions rather than, do we want to find somebody that's here? Do we see somebody in the names that we've already put aside that can come in and do a better job than what Greg's doing? And are they available? And those are all the questions that are going to come in from the front office side of things. So we'll see where that goes.
Are there any names that you'd like to see U.S. Soccer talking to? Like, at least, have that conversation. Is there a coach that comes to mind and be like, I think he'd be good for this group?
We've talked about this, Charlie, and I love how people don't see and see this. I think there's if they are going to move on from Greg, it has to be where a coach with character, a coach who has personality, a coach who can connect with players, because that matters. And we have a young group that is really close and really tight. And so you've got to create that bond immediately to help them progress to that next level. So I've said this before, if there's a change, and I know that Jurgen's taking a break, but if you can get Jurgen Klopp, hell yeah. I mean, I think his personality and his connection with the fan side of things would be pretty interesting.
Tony, when you talk about a manager for this group of players, and I'll be the first to say it, I mean, I was saying this last year, I think a European manager, and it's not because Europe is better than America and Americans can't do it. I think with this group, to build them further than where they are in terms of the ideas and being creative, you need a manager who has won, who has achieved, who's accomplished a lot, but also who's respected. And that's why where my thought process was, who can come in here and say, you know what, I'm going to play the best players who I think can help this team win games. And there's no, relationships that may play into a player playing in a certain position or getting called in or what have you. So do you feel the same way? And what type of manager do you think would get the most out of this group?
I will say this, just to your last point first about a manager that's playing this guy over another guy. I think we're pretty much seeing our best players, right? I mean, would you agree? I mean, is there one or two maybe out there that everyone can make an argument about? Yeah, but I think that's every national team. It's every club team, right? You're always going to make an argument about the guy that's on the outside looking in. I get it. I don't necessarily, for me, and I've been on record saying this, and I won't change. I don't care if it's European or not European. But all the other qualities that you mentioned, respect from the players, understanding of the players, being able to connect with the players, all of those, we'll call them intangibles, right? Those are really important. With that said, I mean, I've been pretty critical of this group that we hear so much about all of these relationships. We've had all of these relationships since every team that I've ever been on, and I was on teams way before you guys were there, and then you guys were on teams
before I was even born, Tony.
Yeah, yeah, I knew you were coming somewhere with it, but like
seriously,
again, I just never know which one.
Before I was born,
this
guy,
you're doing that to him at this time. Well, I should say that.
To be honest, I don't really care if you like the coach or not. How many guys played on teams where they don't like the coach, but they're great players? Like, I just want a great team. That's what I want. I want a great team. And when I look at this group of players, I think that they can be a great team. Of course, it would be great. We have a barbecue every week. But I get all of that. I just want a good team that attacks with this group of players and and I go every week, not necessarily fearing the worst, but I want to expect the best. So that's what I want, Charlie. I really do. I don't know who they're going to pick. I have no idea if they're going to make a change. But yeah, you can mention Klopp and you can mention Pochettino and all these other guys. And I don't know if we can even get any of those guys for some of the reasons Brian laid out, but that's what I want, man. I'd rather have a better team than a great coach, but I know they come hand in hand more often than not,
Yeah. Well, now is, I think, the time that we see why a hire like Matt Crocker is supposed to be so instrumental for U.S. soccer. When he comes in with these ideas and says, I'm gonna hold everyone accountable. I'm coming in with an objective to get U.S. soccer to play at the highest level, given the World Cup is on home soil. So now this is his moment. We saw what he did for the U.S. women's national team in hiring Emma Hayes, and that's a massive coup for the U.S. women's team. But now it's time. The U.S. has underperformed. They've underwhelmed us, and they failed. So where do we go from here? What's the next step? Given we saw the friendlies of Canada, Panama, New Zealand, that's not much of a test, considering we just went, a little bit of a good match where we felt, man, this is something we want to see more of against a better team, a better opponent in Uruguay. So we'd like to see more of that rather than what we would see in CONCACAF.